Welcome to this comprehensive guide on best practices for AWS Amplify REST API. AWS Amplify is a development platform that helps you build scalable and secure applications. In this guide, we will explore the key concepts and best practices for using AWS Amplify REST API. First, we need to understand what REST API is. REST API is an architectural style for designing networked applications. It is based on the idea of resources which are identified by URIs and can be manipulated using a fixed set of operations. To get started with AWS Amplify REST API, you need to install the AWS Amplify CLI and configure it with your AWS account. Once you have installed the CLI, you can create a new REST API using the create API command. This will create a new REST API with a default set of endpoints. When designing your REST API, it is essential to follow best practices. One of the most important best practices is to use meaningful resource names. This means using nouns to identify resources and verbs to identify actions. For example, you can use users to identify a collection of users and get to retrieve a user. Another best practice is to use HTTP methods correctly. HTTP methods are used to indicate the action you want to perform on a resource. For example, you can use get to retrieve a resource post to create a new resource, put to update a resource, and delete to delete a resource. You should also use query parameters to filter and sort data. Query parameters are used to pass additional information with the request. For example, you can use a query parameter to filter users by name or sort users by age. Error handling is also critical when building a REST API. You should use HTTP status codes to indicate the result of a request. For example, you can use 200 to indicate a successful request, 400 to indicate a bad request, and 500 to indicate a server error. Finally, security is a critical aspect of building a REST API. You should use authentication and authorization to control access to your API. AWS Amplify provides built-in support for authentication and authorization using AWS Cognito and AWS IAM. In conclusion, building a REST API with AWS Amplify requires careful consideration of key concepts and best practices. By following these best practices, you can build a scalable and secure REST API that meets the needs of your application. Remember to use meaningful resource names, HTTP methods correctly, query parameters, error handling, and security to build a robust and reliable REST API.